Hey friends. Well, I had a little moment last night where it was like sometimes kids say things it's like the words are identical to what an adult might say, but somehow their openness completely reframes the meaning. And so we were talking. I wasn't even putting on Elise to bed last night. Katie was, but I walked in to give Annalise one last kiss goodnight, and they were just talking about Curious George. She's been reading Curious George, and Annalise asks, "Is the man with the yellow hat George's papa?" And Katie kind of said, "Well, no, he's his friend." It only says George was with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. So she said, "No, he's his friend, but George lives with him and he takes care of George." And then she said, because George is real, she said, so he's kind of like, the man with the yellow hat is kind of like George's papa. But George's real papa is another monkey, because that, and his mama is another monkey because George is a monkey. And she said, but George lives with the man with the yellow hat, so he's kind of like his papa. And Annalise goes, "Why? Did his parents die?" And Katie kind of went, I'm just observing this, right? I'm like sitting next to the bed, ready to like kiss her goodnight. And Katie goes, "Well, we don't really know where his parents are." And then Annalise goes, "Can monkeys die?" And Katie said, "Yeah, monkeys can die. Everything that is alive can die." And Annalise sort of took it in. And she didn't really she shouldn't react. I was expecting her to go, "I don't want George's parents to die," or I was kind of dreading that she would make the connection. If George's parents can die, then what if my parents can die? Which she has asked before. Are you going to die? Is Mama going to die? She's 4, so she's beginning to reckon with these notions and these questions. But something about her asking that question just totally woke me back up to my own mortality. It's like, Sadhguru often talks about, and in his books, he makes a powerful point of saying, the way you perceive the world, the structure of your thinking, should be oriented around your mortality. Because if it's not, you're living in a delusion, and and the structure of all of your goals, of all of your impulses, everything that you think life is about, everything that we are sort of like aiming for in terms of finding satisfaction, finding success, finding fulfillment, whatever, if we're doing that divorced from a sense of our mortality, that this timeline, this story of this human will end, then all of those things are going to be off target. All those goals, all those impulses, all that stuff is going to be off target. Because, and I think, this is what every once in a while I really get a strong glimpse of that. And last night was one of those moments where, Analise, just by asking this question in this open, innocent, totally kind of not laden with a bunch of thinking about it, not laden with a bunch of answers to her questions. Adults sometimes ask these questions, but because we have so much experience, a lot of the time we've already kind of answered the question inwardly, so we don't really think about it. Like we might ask, we might tell ourselves, yeah, I know I'm going to die someday, but that sentence doesn't actually mean anything to us, because the notion of die has been, we've sort of like compartmentalized that and stashed it away. The notion of eventually, the end of the timeline, we've kind of compartmentalized that, stashed it away. So all the key terms have been defanged in a way. So that idea that I'm going to die one day, it's like it doesn't hit me, it doesn't hit all the way to my core. And so I end up organizing my thinking around, not around the reality of my eventual death, but around an idea, around something in my head, which is inherently not a felt sense, not an embodied notion, but just a thought pattern. So what really happened yesterday was kind of Annalise just kind of opened up this world for me where I was like, oh, right. I'm gonna die one day. How can I organize my thinking around that? Structure my goals around that. Structure, how much can I moment to moment live that? And I think it's something very similar to what Madeline is pointing to when she asked me to reflect on something sad before practicing, before playing, reflect on something sad before playing piano, before expressing music, reflect on something sad before meditating. These are like little arrows, signposts pointing us in the direction of a reality that is ultimately so much the container for our life. And if we recognize that, then what happens to me is I just start to think of, it's like my priorities immediately shift. Immediately, everything shifts. And I'm not always able to maintain that for long periods of time, but I get little glimpses in moments where I'm like, oh, right. Oh, yeah. Here's what matters and here's what doesn't matter. And it's real obvious, it's real clear. And I guess I just have so much appreciation for that. I have so much gratitude. On one level, it's a powerful insight to receive. It's a powerful perspective to sort of be jarred into by an innocent comment. And on the other hand, on another level, it's also, I just have this intense gratitude for for the fact that Analise is in my life and has this perspective that just inquires in an open-hearted way, an uncompartmentalized way, and has the power to really put me in touch with some underlying truths, some deep truths. So yeah, that's what showed up the last day or so. I was reminded of my mortality, and of how that just engenders a whole different approach to life. So yeah. Thanks, folks. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.